Very good evening from the KTN News Center here in Nairobi. It is Thursday, August 21st, 2014, a day of many developments both locally and abroad.
In the next few minutes, we will be bringing you the top stories of the day, but we will also have John Alanamu speaking to a security expert on the intelligence war, even as the country prepares for a new spy chief. John Allan, what can we look forward to?
Linda, I've got Andrew Franklin with me here. He's a small wars practitioner, and we're going to be talking about the nomination of Major General Phillip Kameru to serve as the new Director General, what it portends. Can a military man fit in the shoes of the Director General? That's a big ask for many people. So that's what we're going to be talking about in a few minutes.
Definitely a question that's on the mind of several Kenyans. Let's see how that goes in the next few minutes. I'm Linda Ogutu. Thank you for joining us. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is William Silla. Coming out of the United States, the American doctor who contracted Ebola while working in Liberia last month has recovered and is expected to be released from hospital.
Dr. Kent Brantley was one of 2 aid workers flown into America to receive treatment for the virus earlier this month.
Both patients received doses of an experimental drug before being flown to an isolation unit in Emory University Hospital.
It was then that doctors noted that what they described as a miraculous incident, as the 2 patients responded positively to the drug.
Hospital officials say Nancy Whipple, the second aid worker, was discharged on Tuesday.
Now, the 2 will now remain under close assessment by doctors. So far, Ebola has killed 1,229 people, and many countries, including Kenya, remain on high alert as it spreads in West Africa. To Parliament now, where a CORD member of Parliament is seeking to have the country's election date changed from August to December. Now, the bill by Ugenya MP David Ochieng has now been approved by Parliament's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. KTN senior political reporter Sam Ogina now joins us from our city center studio. Sam, could this be CORD's secret weapon of ensuring that the current IEBC does not conduct the next general election?
Well, the bill is quite specific and doesn't touch anywhere about the tenure of IEBC, neither does it even refer to CORD. The bill is quite specific. It actually seeks to amend the constitution whereby they want to change the election date from the second Tuesday of August to the second Monday of, that is December. The argument here is being an August election will actually disrupt the country's program into media politicking.
It has been a ritual perfected over time in Kenya, going to the polls in December, and the proposed law now seeks to restore the tradition. The bill fronted by Ugenya MP David Ochieng seeks a constitutional amendment to move the election date from the second Tuesday of August, as is in the constitution, to the second Monday of December, meaning for the first time, Kenyans could vote just before they proceed for Christmas. The Ugenya MP gives many practical reasons for the move, but political observers will notice that it could effectively grant the wishes of CORD to ensure the current Electoral Commission does not conduct the election, since the tenure of its members expires in November 2017. And on the streets, it is a split vote for the election date proposal.
Maybe they work for their own advantage and violate the constitution that they have voted for.
It doesn't disrupt the business of people around, having a whole campaign. Then you don't know the mood. People are quiet. People have closed shops. Businesses have gone down. It's best if it's towards the end of the year. Then January is a fresh start.
Hatujajaribu hiyo mwezi wa 8 tuone kwamba inafanya kazi mzuri, ndio tuposa tufikirie baadaye kama itakuwa inafia, ndio tuweze kaweka mwezi wa Disemba, lakini mimi naenda kwa ile mwezi wa 8.
The Ugenya MP says that holding elections in August will interfere with the country's budgetary making process, which is usually done between April and June, disrupt school learning calendars and subsequent preparation of national examinations for the schools, that an August date might limit movement for those who travel to their rural homes to vote, and ultimately that it will shorten the lifespan of the 11th Parliament that was elected on March 4th, 2013 and sworn in on the 28th of the same month. Jack Tumwa served in the now defunct Electoral Commission of Kenya.
When I joined the ECK in 1997, there was already pressure from the community, from the Kenyans, from religious groups, that December was not an appropriate date to hold elections.
CORD has been pushing to have the current IEBC disbanded, accusing it of playing favorites in the last general election. The appeals court in Kenya had ruled to have the last general election held on March 4th after controversy over the life of the last parliament. While Article 101 of the Constitution had fixed the election date as the second Tuesday of August, the 5-year term of the 10th Parliament was lapsing on the 28th of December 2012. This essentially throwing the country off balance on when the elections could be held.
It is my prayer that our leaders respect the wishes of wananchi, who indeed, through the Constitution, said we have our elections be held in August. There is no reason. If members of parliament wish to have extra money, because I'm aware that the Constitution stipulates that parliament will be there for 5 years, let the government make arrangements to pay them off the extra time and have Kenyans have elections at their rightful time.
For the bill to be approved to amend the Constitution and effect the change of date, it requires a 2/3 majority of Parliament.
Well, the bill comes against the backdrop of a highly charged and polarized referendum debate, with both sides of the coalition taking a hardline position. Whether the committee, the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, will actually rally its troops to support the bill is just for us to sit and wait. But if it does, then Kenya is staring at its first constitutional amendment through a parliamentary initiative. Over to you, Ben.
Now to that story about a new intelligence chief. President Uhuru Kenyatta has now nominated Major General Phillip Kameru as the new Director General of the National Intelligence Service. Kameru, if approved by Parliament, will replace Michael Gishangi, who resigned last week. KTN's Aaron Ochieng has the details of this story.
The number of attacks that Kenya has experienced in the recent past has to a large extent been blamed on lack of intelligence gathering, or in some instances, failure to act on the intelligence already gathered. That branch of Kenya security that deals with spy information will, if Parliament approves, have a new boss, Major General Phillip Wachira Kameru.
In accordance with Section 7, subsections 1 and 2 of the National Intelligence Service Act 2012, His Excellency the President has nominated one Major General Phillip Wachira Kameru to be the Director General of the National Intelligence Service.
Prior to his nomination to the post by the President, little-known General Kameru headed the military intelligence branch of the Kenya Defense Forces, his most recent engagement being at the heart of KDF excursions in Somalia. Kameru will be vetted by the Defense Committee of Parliament within the next 14 days. Outgoing spy chief Michael Gishangi, who resigned over what State House said were personal reasons, will be remembered as having overseen the transition of Kibaki-Uhuru regimes, but also faced a barrage of criticism following numerous terror attacks in the country. If Kameru gets the nod from Parliament, he will join a long list of spy masters who have overseen various periods in the country. Notable names include the now deceased James Kenyatta, who served both the Kenyatta and Moi regimes from 1965 to 1991, heading what was then known as the Special Branch. He was succeeded by William Kivunani, who headed the unit from 1992 to 1995, before handing over to Brigadier Wilson Boynet, who was Michael Gishangi's predecessor. Kameru's biggest task when he assumes office will be to convince Kenyans that President Uhuru Kenyatta's choice of nominating him is well informed by either ending or reducing the numerous attacks that has befell Kenya in the recent past. Aaron Ochieng, KTN, Nairobi.
Thank you, Aaron. Big development there, as the spy chief is the president's chief advisor on national security. Indeed,
the man who once headed the military intelligence branch will have a lot on his plate if he is approved by Parliament. Let's have that discussion driven by John Alanamu. Namu.
All right, many thanks, Linda and Ben.
Thank you, John Allen. Now to another story from the security sector, and police have now announced the dates for fresh recruitment in the 36 stations where the exercise was nullified last month. The police say the September 1st recruitment would be fair and open.
We were therefore able to call upon the public to indicate where did you witness irregularities What is the type of irregularity? Can you bring it to our attention? And we have already reported to the Parliamentary Committee on National Security the areas that did record high levels of irregularity. And the Commission has already addressed that by way of cancellations. There are others which were not cancelled, but where officers are being disciplined.
Those people who will appear before any recruitment center, in the first instance, all of them will be considered to be put in according to the time that was set. And once all of them have come in and the gate or entry has been closed, then every person who has come at that recruitment center will be given an opportunity to be considered.
So Parliament was this afternoon staging for the second day a heated debate on domestic violence. In the debate, male MPs have largely deserted their female counterparts over the Protection Against Domestic Violence Bill, which some say is a threat to the family unit. The proposed new law introduces stringent penalties on offenders. But as Sharon Momanyi now reports, the bill is only the latest reminder of the long journey to contain domestic violence in the country.
And agony filled the face of the late Betty Kavata. In 1998, Betty fell victim to her husband's wrath. He was angry that the meal Betty had prepared for him had no meat. And so he beat her. So bad, she ended up paralyzed and with a damaged brain. Betty died 5 months later on her 28th birthday, which was a Christmas day. Cases of domestic violence were not unusual then, but would usually pass in silence. But not Betty's. The Kenyan media covered the story extensively. News of her death generated nationwide debate on domestic violence. What followed was years of protests, demonstrations, and lobbying by NGOs, as well as by outraged men and parliamentarians.
For 4 months, who have been there, and the husband actually who has inflicted these injuries on her is going free.
And finally, the government passed the Family Protection Bill of 2007, criminalizing wife beating and other forms of domestic violence. To date, the debate rages on, with Protection Against Domestic Violence Bill of 2013 currently being debated in Parliament.
And therefore the interpretation in their mind psychologically that this bill is for women, because most of the ills we are talking about are visited on women. But think of it the other way around. There are men also who actually are suffering.
The bill has largely been contested on grounds of its definition. In the Act, violence is defined as abuse that includes child marriage, female genital mutilation, forced marriage, forced wife inheritance, interference from in-laws, sexual violence within marriage, virginity testing, and widow cleansing.
In many African traditions, marriage is not between man and woman alone. It's between communities. We marry from you, you marry from us, we develop a relationship, and the marriage is not owned by two people. So it has to be treated squarely, taking into considerations those are the underlying issues of culture.
The bill has garnered just as much support as opposition, even among citizens.
I really don't think if this is a bill that is going to bring men down. This is something that is going to bring equality to all of us, men and women.
There are those men who are not responsible for their actions, and wanafa waletwe mbele. They should be brought forth, and justice should be taken unto them.
The debate is still going on in Parliament. For all the voices fighting against and victims of domestic violence, the hope is that the final legislation arrived at would be one that advances the fight against all manner of domestic violence.
Now we're still just talking of
psychological
things.
Away from the violence now to something more positive. The government has taken what could be a giant step in reviving village polytechnics.
The Ministry of Education also seeks to construct 60 technical training institutes this financial year.
KTN's Wilkis Tanyabo takes a look at how the move could change fortunes across the country.
They take apart the pieces and put them together again. The months of practice have paid off and the learners now handle the machines with a sure hand. This is Polytechnics and the students are here to learn a skill, one they can use to earn a living. There are 700 youth polytechnics across the country, in all except 9 counties, each of these offering students who did not secure a place in secondary school a different option.
Vijana hao ni kwamba ni wale ambao walimaliza darasa la 8, kidato cha 4 na hata wale ambao wengine labda wamemaliza colleges ambao wana nia ya kupata ujuzi katika taaluma mbalimbali. Umri ni kwamba tunachukua vijana kutoka miaka 13 waliomaliza darasa la 8 hadi 22 hivi.
Last year, out of the over 800,000 pupils who sat the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examinations, over 200,000 students failed to join the country's limited secondary schools. The youth polytechnics could only accommodate 100,000 students. The government is now working towards establishing more. Education Cabinet Secretary Kaimenyi says the government intends to construct 60 more youth polytechnics while upgrading the existing facilities.
For a long time in this country, people have not taken graduates from TTIs, from youth polytechnics very seriously. They have not. Which is a pity, because we need to flank this country with people who have requisite competencies and skills. And in so doing, I think we shall transform this nation.
Students at the polytechnics would then be admitted for certificate courses and progress through diploma and advanced diploma before eventually joining a technical university where they would acquire degrees.
Waweze kuleta vijana wale ambao tunajua wanamaliza na wako nje, waweze kupata ujuzi hapa ili uweze kuwasaidia badala kuwaeka pale nyumbani wawe wakiwa kwamba hawana chochote cha kufanya.
Because when we talk about talent, the talents of our children are not necessarily in academia. In physics, in biology, talents are all over. Yeah, you might find that these young people, first class, in, for example, in designs or other related topics, we want to nurture those talents as much as we can.
The good news, however, received with concern by students who say they would like to be involved in the process of developing relevant programs at the polytechnics. The Ministry of Education plans to include technical institutions among options to be selected by Class 8 pupils in their secondary school preferences next year. This in order to ensure that no child is left behind. Every year, hundreds of thousands of youth miss places in secondary schools and institutions of higher learning. The youth polytechnics then aimed at giving these youth an opportunity to earn their place in a job market that still favors degree holders. Wilkins-Tanyapo, KTN in Nairobi.
Let's focus on business news now. And for years, the port of Mombasa has been regarded as the gateway to trade in the East African region, serving landlocked countries as far as the Congo. But things are slowly going pear-shaped for the port, with most shippers and logistics companies opting to use the port in Dar es Salaam to get cargo into the region. According to the Shippers Council of East Africa, the high cost and lack of efficiency at the port could deal a major blow to operations. Charles Gitonga has the details.
Kenya might just be standing at the edge of losing freight business to East African community counterpart Tanzania due to high cost of transport and logistics. Traders are spending much less to move cargo through the port of Dar es Salaam to any destination in the region compared to transporting the same through the port of Mombasa on road. This situation is eroding Kenya's position as the entry and exit point for business in the region.
There is a lot of ground we need to cover in terms of the freight rates.
To move a standard 40-foot container through the northern corridor from the port of Mombasa, a trader spends 422,400 shillings to Kigali in Rwanda, 572,000 shillings to Bujumbura in Burundi, 662,300 shillings to Juba, Southern Sudan, and 616,000 shillings to Goma in eastern DRC. For the same size of cargo through the port of Dar es Salaam, traders are spending 378,400 shillings to Kigali, 396,000 shillings to Bujumbura, and 413,000 shillings to Goma. The high rates in Kenya are in spite of the ongoing capacity expansion at the port of Mombasa and the significant reduction of dwell and transit time. Both the Shippers Council and the government have pointed fingers to shipping lines who have inflated their charges. This has seen these expenses trickle down to transporters and owners of the goods, further eroding Kenya's competitiveness.
Unless costs of transport and logistics reduce, then really the rubber has not yet hit the road.
The 2014 Logistics Performance Survey done by Shippers Council ranks Kenya 4th on basis of logistics, cost and ease of doing business. Rwanda is ranked 1st, Uganda 2nd, Tanzania 3rd, and Burundi is on the 5th spot. However, Kenya is banking on a number of factors to attract traders back to its transport corridor. The introduction of the national single window system in December will reduce bureaucracies. Automation of way bridges will further reduce transit time, while various ongoing infrastructure projects such as LAPSET will further bring down the cost of logistics. Charles Gitonga, KTN Business.
Nairobi Securities Exchange Chief Executive Peter Mwangi is set to step down after a 6-year stint. Mwangi, who was appointed in November 2008, has spearheaded reforms at the bourse, transforming it to the top 3rd best performing exchange in Africa. Some of the projects implemented during his tenure include trading treasury bonds on the automated trading system, reducing the trading and settlement cycle to 4 days, as well as demutualizing the exchange and selling its shares to the public. Amendments to the Capital Markets regulations came in force in 2012, which state that a chief executive officer of an exchange can only serve for 2 terms. Mwangi steps down in November as the board looks for a substantive replacement. Great, so you can now buy a government bond at 9 a.m., sell it at 11 a.m., and buy it back once again at 2 p.m. as the Nairobi Securities Exchange rolls out a new interface that seeks to broaden and deepen the bond market. The new interface, part of several initiatives that the NSA is putting in place to enhance competitiveness and transparency of the fixed income securities, seeks to increase liquidity and provides a reliable platform for the government to raise funds through treasury bills, treasury bonds, and infrastructure bonds. KTN senior business reporter Adelaide Changole has more.
The country's bond market has trailed its equities counterpart, which has experienced exponential growth over the last few years. And the chief problem has been the lack of liquidity endemic in the market as a result of slow turnaround time for traded bonds, which take up to a day to be registered at the Central Bank of Kenya. But now the Nairobi Securities Exchange has unveiled a new interface that will allow one-day trading and settlement.
You can be able to buy the bond, sell it, buy it again, and sell it again. So actually trade the same bond 3 times in a day.
According to Kenneth, the move will boost trading volumes, which will increase liquidity, allowing traders greater returns and increasing Kenya's attractiveness to foreign investors.
All these foreigners are looking at our markets, especially Kenya, after issuing our sovereign bond. I mean, we're on the radar now. We'll see a lot more players coming here, and they have muscle, and also they're able to trade much larger volumes.
Bond trading is dependent on interest rates, and currently investors only gain whenever interest rates fall. But even that will soon change.
Our market is moving towards derivatives. You will be able to short, to hedge, and this allows you, when interest rates are going up, when interest rates are coming down, you're able to make money both ways.
He is, however, urging the market regulators to consider reducing the lot sizes, saying they are currently too expensive for most Kenyans. According to CBK, an investor needs at least 50,000 shillings to buy one treasury bill.
I mean, of course, that also for some would be holds them back. If of course that was reduced, we'd see a lot more retail interest.
Government has raised 64.07 billion shillings through treasury bonds this year. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
If I'm stupid and I've chosen to be stupid, is it your concern? Must you remind me that I'm stupid? Tuniwache tu na ujinga yangu.
Good evening and welcome to KTN Sports. Tonight I'm Lynn Wachira. The national women's sevens team, the Lionesses, will take part in the qualifying rounds of the IRB Women's 2014-2015 World Sevens Series set for Hong Kong from the September 12th and 13th. The ladies have been battling various challenges but remain spirited that irrespective of all the odds, they will stand to be counted. Moses Wahisi reports.
They might be the unsung heroines in the sevens rugby, but the Lionesses are sharpening their claws the best way possible to be among the 12 teams set to battle it out for the 4 available slots for the IRB World Women's Sevens Series qualifiers. The qualifiers is set for Hong Kong from September 12th to 13th, and the team is ready to sparkle.
The team has been going from strength to strength. Last couple of outings, we've managed finals, semi-finals, so that means the team actually has come up.
Right now, the ladies want to go join the IRB level, and that is what they're working.
Irrespective of the many challenges they face, it is simply for the love of game that the Kenyan Queens have relentlessly represented the country in a number of international assignments they have undertaken sometimes with little support.
Personally, I'm disappointed in Kenyans out there because this women's team has been there for, I think, 9 years now. And we've not had any company, any Kenyan who's showing up at least to show some sort of support or sponsorship for the women's team.
Naona tumeimprove sana na najua kwa hiyo level yenye tunaenda, although ni hard, but we're going to try.
Critics have not failed to pinpoint the fact that the cream of old players have for a number of years been on the women's rugby team. Lack of proper ladies team structure is said to blame for this, as coaches make to do with what is available.
We don't have a serious feeder program for the ladies. That's why we have a big lot of elderly players.
Kenya is in Pool B together with experienced Fiji, Japan and Argentina. If Kenya maneuvers our way to the semi-final stage, they will then automatically qualify for the next season's World Women's Sevens Series. They might not have all that they require, but the Kenyan rugby queens are eager and optimistic to make it past the qualifier stage of the IRB. Moses Wahisi, KTN Sports.
And well, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonades out of it. So the old adage states. That's exactly what John Chomo, a former athlete, has been doing for the past 18 years. He has been a volunteer coach to many budding athletes after his running career was cut short by an injury. Somewhere in Kapsabet, Nandi County, athletes go through their paces under the instructions of the coach. That is what John Chomo has been doing for close to 10 years now. His name may not be among the renowned track coaches in the world, but Chomo has played a huge role in nurturing athletes who have gone on to become world beaters. Beijing Olympics 800 meters champion Wilfred Bungei and two-time world marathon champion Abel Kirui passed through his hands. Chomo is not offering his services for a fee, but he desires to see talented athletes achieve what he did not during his heydays.
Kuna shida sasa, wenye huwa anakuwa mapema ni wanaume kwa sababu the muscle misuli yao iko tofauti kidogo.
He would have been among the who is who in Kenya's athletics landscape were it not for an injury that shattered his athletic dreams back in 1997. He's not materially wealthy, but the 49-year-old basks in the glory of his successful students.
Mimi mwenyewe najitokesha, hakuna malipo yenye huwa napata. Hata nikishinda mchana mpaka huwa naeleza hata wakimbiaji ili wakitoka nje mseme huyu kwa mwenye ametusaidia ni alinitoa. Hata unapokuwa umekufa moyo anakusaidia kikwambia usikufe moyo, wenzako walipita hapa. Kuna wenye hawapo wanajiweza lakini sasa hivi wamejiweza.
As he goes on with his selfless involvement to better lives of hundreds of athletes in Nandi County and its environs, Chomo hopes that his efforts will one day translate to financial gains.